Yeah, good morning. 555. Yes, I did wait a little bit because I wanted to do this one at 555. The title is Millionaire Slaves. There have been ideas floated by people involved with the OPPT filings as well as SwissIndo that involve giving millions in money to every, I have even instead of every. How did I get that? And I read it a couple of times too. Every human on the planet. Sounds nice, right? We would no longer have to worry about survival in this crazy world. With enough money, everyone would be able to get what they need and even fulfill many wants. The problem would be, of course, that we would still have the same financial and government system that enslaves all of us. The truth is, we are all millionaires. We actually have value, every one of us, that is traded freely in the marketplace by those who are supposed to be trustees of the trust currencies in our collateral accounts they don't routinely tell us about. Also, even those who have millions in known monetary assets are still slaves to the matrix of control that is now no longer hidden. It is in plain sight. Yeah, there are ideas that I'm going to talk about in this video that many people still are not aware of. It is true that every single one of us has the capability of creating what we term money out of thin air. Now, money is not those little pieces of paper or even the coins, although if the coins were gold or silver, they would be considered lawful currency or lawful money in the system of law that we have. And I mean, even constitutional law in the United States names what money is. It's gold and silver, not paper. We have a debt monetary system, a fiat monetary system that's been operating in the world for some time now, and they are simply debt instruments. But money is created from value, and property and assets are considered value. But here's the kicker: so are you and I. Value. And what is valuable in us? We have creative abilities. We have the ability to labor, to perform functions that are valuable to ourselves and to those around us or to society. And our signature on any piece of paper under the legal system, our signature is monetized. They take the money literally out of our accounts that we know nothing of, and we, as humans, are put up as collateral in the creation of debt, which is fraud, by bankers and those that run the governments and run the system. And they don't tell us that they are only the trustees. They act as if they are the administrators. But we are supposed to be the administrators of our own trust because it is our value. When the United States of America went bankrupt under Franklin Delano Roosevelt, that wasn't the only time it went bankrupt, but when it happened on his watch in 1933, they collateralized the people of America against the national debt, and they literally took ownership of us, and we were each nominally millionaires at birth, with monies added as we got into the system and began to actually create and produce labor, etc. So our value actually increased. And when we go to courts and in the prison system and everything else, those bills are paid out of our account. And then they trick us into paying them again if they can get away with it. And oftentimes they do, because they do it at the point of a gun or at the threat of doing something that we don't want to happen to us. And so under threat and coercion and manipulation, they get us to consent by force, which is an invalid contract. But because we're not able to sustain ourselves in the system, they take the money. Now, if the OPPT people were correct, which they were, that we're involved in a human slave system, we're involved in an extortion racket, they're correct. The corporations need to be shut down because they're operating an unlawful operation. They are operating outside the law. They are outlaws. Corporations do not make the people who run them accountable for their actions to anyone. And lack of accountability is a crime against humanity because it gives the individual who claims that position, whether it's a banker or a CEO or a title from a government agency of some sort, it gives them the idea that they have authority and that they are above the law. But in common law, nobody is above the law. But the system is, there are people above the law. Why do you think that the police, when they commit these crimes in plain sight that we all see on the internet, why do you think that they don't have to pay for their actions? Why do you think the bankers that steal money wantonly by creating bubbles, derivative markets, etc., why do you think that they are never held accountable? Because they are seen in the system, in the matrix, as being above the law. They are outlaws. Okay? But they run the system of money in our world. They run the system. We, the people, do not. But even they who run the system are slaves of the lie. They can never really get to the place where they have a centered existence. They're always kicking, as Paul said, or as Jesus said to Paul on the road to Damascus, it is hard for you to kick against the pricks. Well, even the rich people have to kick against the pricks of their own being because they are living outside the law. They are not in alignment, in attunement. They are not centered in their own being on something which allows them to be whole. That's true of all of us. If we're off center and the matrix knocks us off kilter by the very system itself, we are lost. We do not find the peace. We're always having to fear who's going to find out. National security in our world is nothing more than criminals trying to keep their criminality as much of a secret as possible and not be held accountable by the people, by life, for the crimes, the sins against humanity. But we are all millionaires. And I want you to get that. Even within the matrix system, we are all millionaires. It's not the gold and the silver, it's us. And our signature, which in the system is monetized. The notes, the promises to pay, which are promissory notes, they are actual money because they are backed by our value, our promise to labor, our promise to create, our promise to be involved in a interdependent system called human society that everyone contributes their part to the whole. Everyone does that. But we are all millionaires, yet we are slaves. So that even if those that run the system, and this is what the ambassador always says, we don't want to exchange Pepsi for Coke, or Diet Coke for Coke, or we don't want to exchange Coke for Diet Coke. We've been on Diet Coke, but give them the real thing. It's the real thing. No, we're not. Even if we were all given $1 million tomorrow, we are still in a slavery system and enslaved. Money does not liberate us. The system itself is what makes us slaves. Money has nothing to do with it. Money is only the external expression of value, but it is not actual value. And the people that run the system, the ones that are in the know, realize that the real value is in the people. If the people stopped working tomorrow and they refused to work again, the system would crash. Matter of fact, the system would crash. Nothing would go on if the people stopped playing their roles. Can we do that? Well, no, not really. We have to eat. So it's under duress that we keep playing in the matrix and keep playing the sick game and keep doing what we've always done and keep getting what we've always got, the short end of the stick. But there's more of us now that are waking up. And we realize, those of us that are waking up, we realize that giving people money without changing the way they see the world, without changing the way they see themselves, would only end up the same criminals that have operated the system all along will end up getting all the money right back again. I mean, look at all the sports figures that sign these multi-million-dollar contracts, and they get some high-class attorney to act as their agent, and most of them, within a relatively short time after they stop playing, after they're injured or their ability to perform is diminished, who ends up with all the wealth? It's the damn attorney that acted as the agent. These people didn't know enough to even play the game. And when I say the game, now I'm talking about the financial game of investing and making the money grow, making the asset, the apparent asset, grow. And so it all ends up by the shrewd people taking it from the people that do not have the knowledge, do not have the wisdom. And bear in mind, in the system, they keep us, as many as possible, in ignorance by the education system, by the media, etc., even by the movies and whatnot. They keep us in ignorance from knowing the truth, although pieces of the truth still slip out. And more, those that are paying at least a little bit of attention are aware that the secret is of the man behind the curtain, like the Wizard of Oz. The secret is out. We know that there are people conspiring on their behalf against everyone else's consent and best wishes and the highest good, etc. You still have these people behind the curtain that are manipulating everything because it is a matrix. It is a slavery system. And when I say people, maybe they're extraterrestrials that are malevolent in nature. Fallen angels, if you want. And I'm not going to even argue about the accuracy or truthfulness of some of these things, because from my perspective, almost everything we've been told is a lie anyway. And I don't claim to have any special handle on absolute knowledge and absolute truth. I don't claim that. I'm a seeker. I'm trying to make sense for myself and for my brothers and sisters, to the extent possible, to make sense of a world that is absolutely insane. But I realize, whether I like it or not, as long as I'm in this world, I'm a slave. Now, Aristo says, no, you're not a slave. And technically, that is true. But one who is enslaved, and I am enslaved by the system, I am forced to do things against my will, without my consent. I am giving of my substance to people who are stealing it from me because they're running a racket. They're racketeering. It's a criminal operation. Our banks and our corporations and our governments, which are corporations, are criminal enterprises involved in extorting value from all of us. And it doesn't matter if they give us enough just to barely survive, or even if they were to give every one of us $1 million or $2 or $6 million or whatever. Even if they were to give that to everyone, as long as the system changes and it's based on lies and not truth. As long as people's rights are not respected and honored, we have a system of slaves. The slave is simply someone who is ignorant of how it works. And there are billionaires on this planet that are still slaves of the system. We're talking about people like Gates and Buffett and others that have control of vast amounts of wealth, including the families, the royal families all over the world that have any kind of wealth at all built up, and nobody has more, I don't think, than the Chinese dragon family. But even they, as long as they're operating within the system at all, they too are slaves. They're slaves to lies. They're slaves to their own ignorance, which is why the ambassador wants to start a war on ignorance. Now, how do you wage a war on ignorance? You tell the truth. You educate people. You inform people so that the information, the truth, can set them free if they will understand and gain the wisdom from that knowledge and how to live free. But as long as the system stays in place, it doesn't matter how money is distributed on this planet, it's still a planet of slaves. It's a prison planet. It's a planet where there are certain individuals that take advantage of of the majority of other individuals. And with people waking up, that's got to increase the fear quotient in these people that are playing at the top of the pile, at the top of the pyramid, because they know their day is coming. Their days are numbered. They are weighed in the balances and found wanting by creation itself, by the universe, by the cosmos, by prime source, whatever. So I'd like you to just bear in mind that no amount of money given to you is going to make you free. No amount of money in the world has the ability to liberate you as long as you live in a system where you are enslaved by lies, where you are deceived, where there is no honesty in an admiralty court system. As long as that exists, we are slaves. As long as people with guns enforce the rules made by people in the congresses and legislatures and parliaments and stuff like that, as long as those people are able to keep playing their freaking game, we are slaves because they enforce it with guns and with threats of loss of freedom and other things. It's a slavery planet. It's a prison planet. And we need to wake up if we're going to reclaim our freedom, which begins by understanding who we are and what our natural rights are. And Thomas Jefferson summed it up quite well. We hold these truths to be self-evident, that all men are created equal and endowed by their creator, not by the government, by their creator with certain unalienable rights, that among these are life, liberty, the pursuit of happiness. We have a right to have the things we need. They are ours. They belong to us. We are millionaires in actuality, in actual value. We are millionaires because we are the creators, the co-creators of the world that we live in. That's the way it is, and I thank you for listening. Namaste.